I've created a manual calendar here. I'm not using a calendar control. I'm actually creating a table with table rows, and inside each table row we've got TDs, which are table data cells, and inside each table data cell I have a checkbox and I have a button. Well, the checkbox toggles the button color from red to green. And what I want here is these are a bunch of bills and when they're due. And when I pay them, I want to be able to click that I've paid them and it turns green. And then when I get out of this page, I don't want this to go back to being red, and I don't want to be able to click it again and turn it red. I want it to persist for, I don't know, for longer than a month. I don't want my information to disappear. So I'm not really clear on how to do that. So I had to Google what I'm looking for to make checkboxes persistent, the state to persist. What I wound up finding is this website. I found a few things, but this is the one I'm going to try to emulate. And it's hibbard.eu, all about computers and stuff. And it's entitled How to Persist Checkbox Checked State After Page Reload. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over that in this video. Then I'm going to stop recording and I'm going to try to incorporate the code that I go over and check it in my file. And if it works, then I'm going to come back and do a video that shows you the code on how I create this calendar. And I have this, this is my home page, if you will, where all of these buttons at the top have links that allow me to open a different calendar. So I have nothing for October. It says file not found. I have nothing for December or any of the other months, file not found. But since this is November, I'm plugging in a November calendar that this iframe pulls in this page. That's how that works. And then on the right, I've got a bunch of tabs here that will open up other random, like my email accounts, W3 schools, library, some bills, and so on and so forth. Most of the time when you open another page, you want to open it in a new tab, which is target equals underscore blank. If you test the page to open in the iframe, if you give the iframe, let's say you give this iframe a name of TV, and you test it and it does open up fine and dandy in here, then it's kind of nice to let it open in here. But more and more, these external websites are putting code in there that doesn't allow you to open their website in an iframe. So in that case, that's when you change the attribute to target equals blank. So after I test this person's persistent checkbox state code, as long as it works, then I'll go over all the way to make this and this. I already basically did how to make this because when I did the tribute to Robin Williams, all of these things right here were links that took me to different YouTube videos of Robin Williams, and it would open up in the center here. This, I'm taking basically that template and using it for something totally different. This is more of a calendar for my bills. Okay, so how to persist checked state after page reload. This is a simple tutorial on how to have your browser remember the state of checkboxes once a page has been refreshed or a user navigates away from your site to come back at a later date. This might be useful, for example, if you use checkboxes to allow your users to set site-specific preferences, such as opening external links in a new window or hiding certain page elements. For the impatient among you, here's a demo of what we'll end up with, and the demo is this right here, I believe. Is that the demo? Here, let me just right-click the demo. Persistent checkboxes. Here we actually have the checkboxes and a button that says check all. If you click the check all button, it checks all of these, and then the words change from check all to uncheck all. With each toggle of the button, it goes from the word check all to uncheck all, and it goes from unchecking them to checking them. So that is basically the little demo that it shows you what this code is going to do for you. So the first thing we'll need are some checkboxes. Here are some I made earlier. There are 3 divs here, and inside each div there's a label and an input of type checkbox. The label says label for option 1, and then the text inside those two tags is the word option 1, and there's the ending label tag right there, the / label. Then this is how you actually create a text box on a web page. Input type equals checkbox, ID equals option 1. So the label uses the keyword for, it uses an equal sign to assign it. For equals option 1, ID equals option 1. The ID and the for assignment have to have the same spelling. So option 1 and option 1 have to be perfectly the same. If you capitalize the O in this option 1, you have to capitalize the O in this option 1. And we do the same thing 2 more times. In this div, an ending div, you have label for option 2 with the text option 2, ending label tag, input type equals checkbox with the ID of option 2. And lastly, the same thing with label for option 3, the word option 3 label, input type equals checkbox, ID equals option 3. Then here we actually created the button, and it's got the words check all on that particular button. And this person, the author of this web page, says, you'll notice that I've included a check all button to allow a user to select or deselect all of the boxes with one click. You'll also hopefully notice that I'm using labels for the text pertaining to each of the boxes. It goes without saying that form fields should have labels anyway, but in the case of checkboxes, this is particularly important as it allows users to select or deselect the box by clicking on the label text. So let's implement the persistence for the checkboxes. It makes most sense to do this using cookies, as these will persist beyond the current browser session. To this end, I'm going to use the jQuery cookie library, which makes working with cookies a breeze. You could, of course, do this in plain JavaScript, in which case I recommend the scripts found on this page. And then if you right-click and open that in New Window, you get a page here that talks all about JavaScript cookies. I'm not going to do that right now, but I will look at it later. So as far as using his jQuery cookie library, he says, he or she, whoever did this, to start with, let's bind an event handler to the checkboxes so that something happens when you click them. Suffice to say, I'm using jQuery. So we have $, parentheses, double quotes, colon, checkbox, and double quotes and parentheses, dot on, and then in parentheses you've got the word change in double quotes, a comma, and the word function with the empty parentheses. Then you've got a pair of curly braces with an ellipses inside. Now we have to consider what it is we want to happen when they change. If we want to persist all of the checkboxes, it seems that the logical choice would be to make key value pairs consisting of the checkbox IDs and their corresponding checked state, wrap them up in an object literal, and store them in a cookie. If we want to store objects in our cookie, we need to inform the library about this. And to do that, we have $.cookie.json equals true. Then inside our change handler, we have var checkbox values equals, and then there's nothing in those curly braces, semicolon. Then you have $, and in double quotes you have colon checkbox dot each, and then in another parentheses you have function with nothing in the parentheses. Then you have your beginning curly brace that says checkbox values, and in brackets this dot ID equals this dot checked. Then you end your curly brace, you end your parenthesis, and you end your you put your ending semicolon there. The last line says $.cookie, and in parentheses single quotes the word checkbox values, comma, then the word checkbox values again, comma, and then a curly braces that says expires, colon, 7, comma, path, colon, and then you've got a / in single quotes. This will set a cookie which is valid for 7 days and valid across our entire site. Finally, we need to test for it on page load, and if it's present, set the value of the boxes accordingly. So here is the last little ditty there. It says function repopulate checkboxes, and in curly braces var checkbox values equals $.cookie, and in parentheses and double and single quotes the word checkbox values, ending semicolon. Then we've got an if checkbox values, then we have the curly brace. If checkbox values, then object.keys, and in parentheses checkbox values, dot for each, then we've got function, and in the parentheses the word element. And in that function, we've got, in that next set of curly braces, we have our checked equals checkbox values, and in the straight brackets, the word element. Lastly, we have $sign, and in parentheses, you have a pound symbol in double quotes plus element, dot prop, and then in parentheses, you have the word checked in single quotes, a comma, and the word checked again. Then you close up the parentheses, close up the semicolon, close up the curly brace, close up the parenthesis, close up another semicolon, and then you have two more ending curly braces. And that's it. We now have persistent checkboxes. And then here again, it says here's a demo of what we have so far. Try refreshing the page and you'll see that the checkboxes remain selected. So I right click, open a new tab. There is our persist checkboxes 1. I'm going to uncheck the middle one. So option 1 and option 3 should stay checked when I get out of here. I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to refresh this page right here because I'm really curious. I'm going to right click this demo again, and let's see if the first and last are still checked and the middle one's unchecked. And it worked. So pretty cool. It looks like it works. So far so good. And we're doing this in the Firefox browser. I have to check what browser because when I go to test this across different browsers, I may or may not get the same result. I think Chrome is not persisting, but I'll double check again. So far, Firefox is. Alrighty, so we tried refreshing the page and the checkboxes that we had remained selected. You can also inspect the page source if you want an overview of the code so far. So if we want to look at that again, we will right click, open a new tab. Again, it's still like that, but page sources, if you go to a page, you right click and you click view page source. This basically is all the code that does that in a nutshell, starting with the doc type HTML all the way to the ending HTML tag. Okay, so let's get out of that and that. Back here. Check or uncheck all. To round this off, let's implement our check all button so that the user can select or deselect everything in one go. Obviously, when clicked, it should select all of the checkboxes. When all of the checkboxes are selected, its text should read uncheck all, and its state should be stored in our cookie too. We'll start off like this. So we're creating another function. This function is called update button status. And the function goes like this. Here's the beginning curly brace. Var all checked equals $sign, and then in parentheses and double quotes, colon checkbox, dot length, and there's 3 equal sign here. I've never seen 3 equal sign used before, so this is new to me. $sign, and then in the parentheses here and double quotes, we have colon checkbox, colon checked. Then we have dot length, and then the ending semicolon. We have a $sign for the next statement, and in parentheses and double quotes, the word button, then dot text, and then in the next set of parentheses, we have all checked with a question mark. Then in double quotes, we have the word uncheck all. We've got this colon right here, and then we've got check all in double quotes. So I think that this is what is going to toggle our text from uncheck all to check all, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because here's the button, dot text, and all checked right here is the variable that we created. All right, so then we have the ending closing semicolon and the ending curly brace for that function. Then we have this $sign and in double quotes colon checkbox dot on, and then in parentheses the word change in double quotes with a comma, and the word function with nothing in the parentheses. And then inside those curly braces, we have the word update button status, which is actually calling this function called update button status. And then we have the ending curly brace, the ending parentheses, and the final semicolon. This will cause the button's text to change when all of the checkboxes are checked. Now a function to do the selecting and deselecting. Alrighty, so this function says function handle button click and then in parentheses button. If $button.text.match, check all and make sure that you pay attention to, I'm just saying the English words, but make sure you check all the syntax, whether it's parentheses or a single quote or a double quote. $, colon checkbox dot prop checked comma true. Else $, colon checkbox dot prop checked comma false. Then after that, closing curly brace and semicolon, you have update button status. So that is actually calling update button status again. That's calling this function right here. Lastly, we have $, button dot on click comma function handle button click this. So this right here, this handle button click this, is calling this function I just read, handle button click button. And it's plain sailing after that. We'll just add a new value to our cookie, which I have renamed, to reflect the fact that it now stores different types of form elements and moved into its own function. This function is called function update cookie. Var element values equals, and then you've got this empty curly braces, $, colon checkbox dot each function. Next line, element values, and then in straight brackets, this dot ID equals this dot checked. Then you have your closing curly brace, closing parentheses, and closing semicolon. Next statement says element values, and then in brackets, straight brackets, button text equals $, button in parentheses and double quotes dot text. Lastly, we have $, dot cookie in parentheses and single quotes element values, comma expires, colon 7, comma path, colon, and then in single quotes /. Then you have your ending curly brace, your ending parentheses, and another ending curly brace to finish that. Then it says on page load, this is what's supposed to go on page load, $, button in parentheses and double quotes dot text, and then in parentheses element values with button text in straight brackets and double quotes. Whew! Let's right click the demo, open in new tab. This we already basically looked at. If you click it, when it says uncheck all, it unchecks all. When it says check all and you click it, it checks all. And if we uncheck just 2 of them, hit refresh, it doesn't change anything. Now let's get out of here and let's see if option 1 stays checked when I right click and open this again. Yes, the first option did actually persist. I hope this proved useful for people. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to hear them in the comments. If you made it this far, then you might consider following me on Twitter, and there's a little Twitter button for this person's hibbard.eu how to persist checkbox check state after page reload page. And this right here looks like the whole thing from top to bottom, which shows us the doc type, the HTML, the head goes from here to here. You got a meta char state equals UTF-8. You've got a title called persist checkboxes. You have a style, which we didn't have a style before, but this style says margin top 8 pixels, and that's all in the head. Then you got your body. Here's those 3 divs that actually have the labels and the checkboxes. Then you have that button. that says check all on it. We've got two scripts here so that we can use that jQuery without having to put in all the jQuery code. We just borrow it from these two. Then I don't know why this moved over. You can't see it well. Then we have this script right here, which has multiple functions inside. The script tag begins there and ends there, and in that we have a function here called handle button click with button inside the parentheses, and I'm not going to read all that again. Then we have a function update button status. We have a function called function update cookie, and we have a function called function repopulate form elements. And I'm trying to understand. It looks like the beginning of this repopulate form elements. I'm trying to see where the ending curly brace for that would be. I want to think that's the ending curly brace for that. And then you've got two other, I guess these are jQuery statements. I'm not sure because I'm not familiar at all with jQuery. But there's the ending script tag, the ending body tag, and the ending HTML tag. I am going to try to do this in here so that when I click on whatever random bill button selectors that I have in these table data cells and I get out of it and I wait for an hour or however long and I come back to it, I just want to make sure that what I clicked is maintained. One thing I don't believe that this did was what I didn't notice is that it takes away my ability to change this. And it didn't. It didn't take away my ability to change this, which that is part of how I want it to function. What it has is that I can change these and I can come back and it's the same, but then I can undo the checkboxes. I want to disable the ability. Once I check something, I don't want the ability to uncheck it. I want it to stay checked, period. So that's another thing that I have to look up and see how I might get that to function. So that's all I'm going to go over right now. I'm going to test this in my code and see how it works, and then I'll come back.